Good morning, folks, and welcome to Trackside episode 23.
Awesome. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good day.
Good day.
G'day,
Good
g'day.
There you go.
Who was that?
Who was that?
Who's Stranger Danger?
What is that face?
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
The nose is here.
Goodness.
Who is that?
Hello?
Hey, good
Is this
day.
thing on?
Good day, mate.
G'day,
Oh, my
guys.
God. I won't
Good
be able to
morning.
sleep for a week now.
Welcome back, Shannon.
God's alive.
Yes, I am alive. I am back. Life is good, and that is a bad lighting angle. And there's a cockroach on my road.
Nice.
We don't need to know that.
What? I'm staring right at him. He's right next to the light. Might warn me.
They taste like chicken.
I like
Apparently.
Apparently. Okay. So as far as I can tell, today's topic is we're talking about casting portals and other kind of casting stuff on the bob. I just had a complete mind blank.
You were going to talk about
casting.
as well, Shannon.
You know, these kind of stuff. So, you know, like it's casting molds, casting brick walls, rocks, tunnel portals, different ideas on how to paint them. You know, even how to make some molds so you can cast more if you need them. So,
Yep.
Well,
I'm guessing, Claude, you're taking the show at the start.
I
Do this
can. I've got a mold here that I've set up that I'm ready to pour the molding rubber into, and I was going to show you that. But there's not a lot to explain on it. It's a two-part rubber. I got this particular one from Micromark. The first one I got from Hobbytown here in town, but it was a small quantity, so I bought some bigger bottles from Micromark. Works really well. Sets up pretty quick. It's a 1-to-1 mix, so it's pretty easy. But once you mix it, you've got to get it in the mold pretty quick. So you want to have your mold set up. And I'll move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing, and I'll go ahead and mix that up. And anybody has any questions or anything, they can ask questions, or somebody else can talk about what they're doing while I'm mixing it up. Let me see if I can get this set down here. Oh, there we go. That's the way to do it.
that was good.
Okay, let me try this again. Okay. Can you see that okay?
Yep, looks good, Claude.
Okay. Well, this is the mold I'm going to make today. It's a vertical rock wall, cut stone wall with a cap on it. And I've just made a simple box out of balsa wood. You could use cardboard or plastic, or use a little plastic box, or even a cardboard box, you know, like the bottom off a kit or something. Just, you don't want something that's not too much bigger than what you're working with, so that you don't use too much mold rubber. But you also want to have enough on the sides and stuff that when you take it apart, it doesn't split on you. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mix it up to get poured in here. And anybody's got any questions or anything like that can ask questions, and I'll try to answer them for you, or somebody else can go with what they're doing. This is what I'm using. See if I can get it in the camera. This is the mold rubber that I'm using that I got from Micromark. Works pretty easy.
What is the setup time on that, Claude?
I was just
I haven't timed it, but I would say it's probably about 30 minutes. And of course, I'm putting it into a measuring cup first, because you want to get the measure pretty close to the same. And then I'll put it in. This is the A part, and I'll put this into the mixing cup. And I'll need more than what I've got right here in this first cup. I think 4 ounces will do us for the whole mold, hopefully. Going by what I've done so far.
So do you do one portal at a time? I guess you don't have more than one, right? Just
Yeah. Now you
Yeah.
see on the, and I'll explain this here in a minute. On most of the stuff, like the portal, I just made one mold, so I do them one at a time.
okay.
But like on the little individual footers that I did, I do them 2 at a time. Or I did actually, I did one and made that until I got 6 of them. And once I got 6 of them, I made another mold for 6, so I could do 6 at a time because they're smaller.
Okay.
And I'll show that here in a minute. I don't know if you can see it on camera now. It's sitting over here just in front of this.
Yeah, we got a good shot.
The other thing you want to try and do, and they tell you this in the instructions, is try not to get any air in it when you're mixing it, which I don't know how you can tell if you're getting air in it or not, but just don't get too vigorous with your stirring until you get it mixed up. It mixes pretty easy. And both of the products that I used, this one and the first one that I used, mixed about the same way, and they tell you to do it about the same way. So you can see there, and then we just mix that up until it's a uniform color. So you can see how easy that mixes. I hope you can see that.
Yeah.
That's how you get the air in it, I'm sure. The other thing I like to do once I pour it in is I'll tap it on the counter quite a bit, and that helps the bubbles come to the surface. One nice thing that happened, it was kind of a happy accident, was when I was casting the 6 footings, one of them got an air bubble in it in the corner of the footing, and it looks really good because it looks like a deteriorated area on the footer.
Yeah, I've had that happen as well.
Gotta love happy accidents.
And what happened is it happened on just one of the 6, so the rest of them are all pretty good. So now you just pour this in and it'll self-level. I may have to mix up some more to get this covered. Yeah, I'm gonna have to mix another one real quick here.
Uh-oh.
Think about a ½ ounce of each of these should be plenty.
Is Sugar Cookie who I think it is?
There's
is.
Brian,
Look at it.
Sleepy.
Hey, Brian.
I'm still getting dressed. Sorry.
Oh, thanks for
Oh, come on. We wanted a bit of a nudie
We
show.
do not need the picture.
I was up all night painting. I'll show y'all in a little bit. But I got the backdrops painted almost all the way around the shed. Not the whole backdrops, but the walls and stuff. So I was up all night, and I guess when I went to sleep, I didn't set the alarm. So sorry I'm late. I'll be back in
We
a
were
second.
panicking, Brian. It's like, what? We were talking. It's like, where the heck is Brian at? We were worried.
Wilmer, no, the rubber I've used had no fumes at all, and Claude, yours doesn't give off any fumes, does it?
No fumes. I'm working right over top of it, and it's not bad at all. Now the CA that I used to glue the balsa wood together, yeah, that'll give off some fumes.
Right.
You want to be careful with that one, but and I'm just going to add this in just to fill out what that was. Get the bottom of it just a little bit thicker. You put whatever you're going to mold face up in your box, obviously, so that when you pull it from the mold, that you can then pour your casting material, whether you're using resin or using hydrocal like I'm doing, or plaster Paris, whatever it is. You'll be able to pour that right in, and that will be then the back of your mold. You can see some here. This is a horizontal wall that I made. I bought a resin piece that was like this, and I made this, was one of the first ones I did. You can see how I did this one. And I put the balsa wood in there. I had a plastic box, and I just was trying to fill it up so I didn't use so much rubber. This is one of the footings. This was the very first one I did. To get this, I made a wood mold first. I cast it, and then I took it out and I carved all the joints on it, and then I made a mold of that particular one. This is actually the master. Then this one is a Campbell's product, random stone tunnel portal that I'm using, and I had to have several of them on this layout. So I thought, well, instead of buying them all, I'll cast one of them, and this is the mold for that. And then this is the footer I was talking about. And here's the one that had the bubbles in it. So you can see how it came out. And I think that's the one right here. But the others came out pretty nice. And they look really good on the layout once I get them on there and painted. Another thing you can do with these, and John's probably figured this out too, is to do some different stuff. Instead of taking these, pouring them full and cutting them in half, if you need a short one, just pour it halfway up. I do the same thing. I always try to keep one of my rock molds close. And when I pour my plaster in, I almost always have a little bit of extra. So I'll take some of these and I'll pour in. And this one, you can see the rock is pretty good size. But in this case, I just used part of it. And these come in really handy because you can put these in a lot of places you can't put one of the big ones.
Wow.
And you get different looking rocks that way. Yeah,
exactly.
Wow. That's a great suggestion. Wow.
Yeah, so that way you don't waste your plaster. Even if you're not going to use them, you might as well try to make a mold out of it somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I did. In fact, you can see here's one I did a partial pour of this, because I may have one that I only need that much wall for.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got it and I don't have to cut it off a full one. Anyway, this will set up here in a little bit, and I don't think you got too much air in that. And then we'll pull it out. We'll be able to pull it out and show you what it looks like. Okay, John, you can take it from here. Or has anybody got any questions on it?
I've been watching chat. I haven't seen many questions. Wilmer wanted to know if we were going to put up a link from where you got that. It was Micromark, wasn't it?
Micromark, yeah. I don't have a link for the actual product. I can, we can do that after the show's over or something, put one on the description. But it's Micromark, and it's the 1-to-1 Express. They've got several different ones. These are 16-ounce bottles each. So you get 16 ounces of mold rubber, basically, is what you get out of it. Actually 32 ounces of mold rubber out of it. This one was about $40 plus shipping. But the first one I got from Hobbytown did just 2 molds, and it was almost $30. So this was cheaper in the long run because I've made more molds with it, and I still have some left. I can still make another mold if I need to. The only drawback to this, it says best if used by date stamped on the container. Well, these are stamped 12/20, so I really need to use them before December, and that'll probably happen, so it's not a problem. But if you're going to cast very much stuff or one thing, like I need a lot of portals, I also need a lot of footers for my trestles, and then I'm also using a lot of rocks because I'm modeling the Rocky Mountains, so it's worked out pretty well for me.
Well, it's not going to help me. I've only got one tunnel portal, so it's not going to help me. Well, I got 2. I got a rock.
I could make you one, Steve, but it would be HO scale.
Okay. Well, sure. Why not?
Just be a little bit big.
Just look
Well,
at
then you can run double stacks.
Well, it's a 2-track portal, so maybe the single HO would work.
All right, I don't have as much as Claude. I just have a few examples here. Let me make myself a little bigger here.
Well, and I would suggest if you only had to say make 2 portals, only needed 2 portals, don't buy molding rubber and do it, because it's going to cost you more than just buying the 2 portals. But depending on what you're doing and how much you got to have of it, if you need to have enough of them, then it makes a smart move to buy the molding rubber and do it. It's not hard to do, so
Yeah, that might be something I might invest in, Claude, because as my layout's portable, I tend to go through a few tunnel portals during transportation, so I always have a couple spare with me.
Mhm.
But yeah, like, anyone in similar situation to me might be able to use as an advantage, to always have something to make spares out of instead of, replacing it every time.
Yeah,
Sure.
Here's a tunnel portal I made. I have actually 2 of them, but I only have 1 up here. It's a single track tunnel portal, and it was designed as poured concrete. So I wanted the marks from the plywood that they used to form it. So when I made that mold, I started with this blank, which is just a piece of plywood that was cut a little bit small, and then I cut thin sheets of like probably 16th inch basswood to scale size sheets of plywood. You can probably see the lines here and here, and up the side. It did have a mantle on top, but when I took it out of the mold, I broke that off, and I probably reused it for something. And for that, I used a 2-part rubber, a lot like Claude's. This is a product that's called, I think it's pronounced Oomoo. It's OOMOO. It's nice to work with. It's real dense rubber. It's a lot heavier than other stuff that I've used. And it's a 1-to-1 mixture, which is nice. But once you open it up, it has a really short shelf life. If you don't use the whole bottle within a couple weeks, it's gone. So it is a good product. I do like it. It captured. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, you can see the lines from the plywood that I put in there. So it captures everything really well, and it works well. It's something that you got to use right away.
I was worried about that with this product, but obviously don't have that short a lifetime on it.
Well, I used another product. It's called Amazing Mold Rubber. I got at Michael's, I believe, and that's a 1 to 10 mixture, and that stuff has a really long shelf life. I've opened that up and then gone back to it 6 months later, and it was still good.
I think that's what this was, John, was that same. They had a couple of different ones. They had this one, which was, they called a fast dry or something. And then the other one that they had was a hard to tear or something, tear proof or something like that. So that if you were making small stuff and making a lot of it where you're peeling it out all the time, you didn't break the mold.
Right. Well,
but I think it was that amazing.
It ended up pink in color.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was beige, and then of course this one you can see is blue. So,
all right, sorry for the shakiness, folks, but here's a couple of resin castings I made. If the camera will focus for me. Not really well. Sorry, I'm not getting really good focus here. But these are bridge shoes that I modeled after prototype photos that I found. And I just made them out of scraps, mostly scrap styrene, and then poured these out of resin, which is, oh, there we go, that's a little bit better. Cast it out of resin, which is a two-part resin, a 1-to-1 mixture. I don't remember the name of it, but it works really well, and it sets up very quickly in probably about 10 minutes. And again, it captures all the details perfectly. I wish this would focus a little bit better.
Hey, John,
Yes, sir.
Norman asked if you use some form of spray release to help the piece out.
All I did with this or the tunnel portal is a little bit of water and dish soap, and I just wipe it inside and then dry it out. Not dry completely, just take the water out.
Mm-hmm.
And that works.
Well,
that works fine.
Yeah, all I'm using for mine is just I wet them. You know, I wash them out, dump all the water I can get out of them. There's a little moisture left in it, and they pop right back out when they're dry. But I'm not using resin, so resin's a little bit different.
Yeah, well, these were small pieces. I probably didn't need the mold release, but I didn't want to take the chance and have them get stuck. So I figured I'd just use it, and they popped right out with no problem.
Yeah.
And in fact, pretty much everything you're seeing here was cast. This was all of this was cast out of plaster, and like I said, these two were cast out of resin. And this is for a diorama that I've been working on for forever, really. And at some point, it will be a lift bridge going over a river. So that's about all I have regarding casting.
Well, I have nothing to add.
Well, Container Man wanted to know if Pam spray would work.
I'm sure
I was wondering that too.
I imagine it would. I don't know if it would react with whatever you're molding. You might want to test it before you sprayed it. I don't think it would hurt your rubber mold, but it might react with the if you're using a resin or something like that, it might react with that. I don't think it would hurt with plaster, but you don't need it with plaster.
Right.
Well, I was thinking you'd have to clean that off before you could paint it or anything because it's greasy.
Yeah. Well, that goes with any kind of release. You have to then wash the product out. You know, your piece that you're taking out, you'd have to wash it before you could paint it.
And with the resin, I suggest painting it as soon as possible after taking it out of the mold. I don't know why, but for some reason the paint adheres better if you get the paint on there as quickly as you can.
Well, that's a nice thing about the plaster stuff is it takes paint great. It'll soak that paint up, and then it takes washes really, really well over the top of the paint. If I'm using acrylics, using the acrylic craft paint, so it's just been soaking it up, and you can go back over it with a wash and add stuff to it, and it works really, really well.
Yeah, which I can demonstrate here if you want, Claude, because
Sure,
I've got some watercolors here. So as Claude was saying, you know, these plaster molds, they actually do take on, you know, watercolored or watered down acrylic paints really well. Like this is one I just prepared maybe half an hour ago. You know, stone wall, similar to what Claude's got in N scale. There's a one I haven't done just yet. And yeah, and basically all I've done is I've gone down to an art supply store. You know, I bought this watercolor palette, which, you know, stacks up quite nicely to put away, and I can spread it out quite easily. Now, usually when I do this, I don't know if you do it any differently, Claude, to how I do it, but I always start off with a lighter shade and go make my way down to a darker shade. So in this case, you know, I'll use this color palette. You know, got yellows, so a bit of yellow, bit of light brown, bit more water. And the more water you have on there, you know, if you actually pre-wet it as you paint, it tends to spread the paint out and the pigment out quite nicely. And you get all these different effects, which actually gives it a really natural looking color.
Yeah, I found Shannon that if you want it to be an even color across like what you're doing right now, then you want to pre-wet it, and it'll do what Shannon's talking about. It'll spread the color out, and it won't want to pool up in one spot or another. But if you want to say a stain or something that has run down the corner of the wall or something like that, then you wait for it to dry a little bit, and then put your wash over it and just let it flow down naturally, and it gives a really good effect that way, I found.
Yeah. Well, I normally cheat with that and what I do is to get it to dry a bit quicker so I can get that effect. I just have like a paper towel or something on hand, and I just absorb as much of that water as I can.
Yeah, that works real well. Keeping a paper towel. I did that when I was painting the base terrain on the mountain, and you could blot, if you got too much on there, just blot it or wipe it and it'll come off. Most of it will come back off, and you think you've ruined it, and you actually end up making it look better.
Yeah.
So that's a good technique too, is blotting up the extra.
Yeah. Anyway, so once I got the lighter shade on, I still keep it wet, and I try and, brush as much water on it just to kind of spread it out, lighten the shade a bit. It does take some of it off, leave some of it on, depending how the material casts it. Just dry it up a bit. And then from there, as I said, I just move on to a darker shade. Mix the paints up a bit. And as you can see, because it's already wet, if I just blop it on areas like so, you can see it starts to absorb into the cracks. Kind of, the technique I use is the more water you got on the paintbrush, especially if you've got a big paintbrush, tends to give you a better effect overall. And as you can see, a lot of those cracks that I'm filling in now are really starting to get in there. And then again, give it a nice wash.
Shannon, Chuck wants to know, where did you get those paint containers?
These ones I got from an art supply store years ago, and I've had them for 3 or 4 years now. I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure if you go to any arts and crafts store that sells, acrylic paints or watercolor paints or anything like that, they'll have something similar. They're quite cheap. Like I paid about $20 for the set I got here, but translating that to US dollars, that's like $12, $15, somewhere around that range. So it's actually not that much. Like when I originally first started doing this, I originally used kids paint. The paint palettes you buy for your 2-3-year-old kids.
Yeah, you don't have to use expensive paint.
Yeah.
Oh, especially with plaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like as I said, as Claude said, like, if you use acrylic, if you water it down enough, you'll get the same effect.
Yep.
Because the good thing about the plaster is, because it is plaster's very, I guess in a way you could say it's like a solid sponge, and it just absorbs the water.
Yeah, plaster is very thirsty stuff.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, as I add on darker shades and just add more water, it just starts to fill in those cracks, change the effect. And then as you dry it, and then once you get somewhere where you're happy with, just get a very dark shade with a very fine brush. Just try and fill in those cracks the best you can. Don't have to do them all. Again, as you can see, extremely wet brush. Just try and touch where the bricks meet. and the paint just seems to flow through the cracks. And then if you want to, then once you've done that, you dry it again. And then if you want to add in some different colors, just try and almost dry brush the watercolor on there. Because as you get the paintbrush more dry, the paint tends to paint over the plaster a lot darker. And as you can see how I'm making some of the bricks nice and dark. If I want to simulate like moss, I'll get some green. Get a nice thick shade.
Yeah, I've even used some green on the mountain, on the rocks and stuff, and it does it. If you use a real washed down green, it does. It looks like you're putting it on a little thicker than what I was doing, but it just looks like mildew. Yeah.
Well, here you go.
Gives a real subtle effect to it.
There you go. And that's pretty much it.
Chuck wants to know what if you were printing a 3D, well, if you were painting a 3D printed portal.
3D printing, it's a little bit different. You'd have to use more, in my opinion, I reckon airbrushing techniques would work. And again, same thing. You still start off with a lighter shade and you just work your way darker. But I guess with airbrushing as well, it's kind of, you go from light to dark and then you put say a white overspray over it just to lighten it up a bit. Because the one thing I found with airbrushing is sometimes when using airbrush paints, when it does dry, it does tend to dry a darker shade. So yeah, so usually you paint it to what you like it to, and then if it does end up that little bit darker, just get like like a very washed out white paint, and then just kind of spray over it from afar just to lighten it up a bit. So as you can see, you can get many different effects with watercolors. So it works out well.
Yeah, they look great, Shannon.
Awesome.
And yeah, and as I said, like if you're starting out, this is a great way to learn. Because using plaster or hydrocolor, anything like that, it is quite cheap. You can't really make a mistake. Like if I grab one of my tunnel portals, same thing again. You can see where I've used light shades, some browns, some black to simulate soot on the tunnel portal. And you can see on the back where I was testing out some colors and how it turned out. And you look at it, it actually looks quite nice.
Yeah, looks good.
Yes.
The other thing too about the plaster, it sucks up the initial color real well. But once it's on there, if you screw it up or you think you've screwed it up, you probably haven't. But if you think you have, just paint back over it and start over. And it'll still work. It may not work quite as well, but it'll still work and you'll be able to save the product.
Mm-hmm. Even then, if you think you put a too dark a shade on, just get, I just use a white. Like if you look at this one, there's some sections on it which did turn out pretty dark. But in the right light, you can see where I've added some white to lighten it up, and it actually, made it turn out a lot better than, what it originally looked like. So, like, as I said, you can't really make a mistake with it. Like, it's good practice, it's good fun. And every time you do it, they always turn out differently. So, if you got like a set of them, like, usually when you buy these from Woodland Scenics or something like that, you'll buy them in sets of 3 or 4. So, you just line them up and you just do them all the same. You do one shade together, then you do the next shade, and you just work your way across. So, I don't know if there's any other questions there.
I have something that I might have missed. What can you use to pour the casts in? Like what different stuff? I know that y'all have made some molds today, but like what other things, DIY home type stuff, can you use to pour plaster into pop molds out of? John and I were having a discussion about that one day, about different things that maybe you could use around the house. For example, if you had a mold you wanted to pour that was unique, what would you use to cast it in?
You could just make a form out of wood, out of balsa wood. I've done that out of styrene. Anything that will make the shape that you wanna cast.
Yeah. This first footer, I just took a block of wood, and I actually had to do this in reverse. I had to make a box almost like this, and then just put a piece of 1/4 inch basswood down the middle of it to give me the to give me the groove in it, and then poured that full of plaster and just peeled that wood away, dug the wood out of here, and that gave me my basic shape. And then I just carved the grooves in it, and then poured it with the rubber. Now you can use. I've seen people use molding clay. To do just do one piece, where they actually just take the piece and press it into the clay and pull it out. Carefully pull it out. I don't know if that gives you as good of detail as using the rubber, but it'll work for some things. I've seen people use sand. I've seen people take sand and mix it with like a glue, like white, kind of like we do ballast and stuff, and do it that way. Now the problem with that is, I would think you'd have to seal it with something so you don't get sand particles in your piece that you want to have. But yeah, I've seen different ways of doing it.
Well, I'm trying to remember back years ago. Go ahead, Brian.
Claude has slowly made his way to
No,
my
I'm
point.
saying, but
The kinetic sand. Could kinetic sand work?
Possibly.
I was in Michael's and I was looking at kinetic sand. I have a 4-year-old, so we were looking at kinetic sand. And that kinetic sand will mold into just about anything. Very, very easily.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's getting it to hold that shape. Once you get the shape you want, something that molds real easy, like sand, you've got to put something in it to keep it from moving while you're pouring whatever you're pouring in there. Whether it's rubber, resin, plaster, whatever it is, you're going to have something to keep its shape while you're doing that, so it doesn't move around and change. And I don't know anything about kinetic sand other than I've heard of it before, but I would think you'd have to have something to firm it up once you made your shape.
Well, does anybody use?
That would probably render it not useful.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a one-time thing, I would think.
Yeah.
This is firmed up, so you can see it didn't take long. And so now, because I made this out of balsa on purpose, so it makes it easy to get the rubber out of what you poured it in. And I'll just work
I like kinetic sand too. I blamed it on the 4-year-old, but I do like to play with it too. It's great stuff, man. It's the neatest stuff in the world. It's sand that like stays moist and never dries out, and you can mold it every which way you want, and then come back a week later and it's still sitting like that. It's not dry. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things that you could probably test, on a small scale.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. It's not cheap though, so that doesn't make it. It's not going to make it real super economic.
Yeah. But I would think you could test it and find out.
I think a couple pounds of it's about $10. So.
I'm being fairly careful with this so I don't break my piece that's in here. Plus, I don't want to tear the mold.
I don't know. I can't read. Oh.
I was just looking at chat here.
Oh, there.
Container Man, Roy H. Hi, Roy. Makes a very good point. Don't wear one of your good shirts when you're doing this. And I think that's a stab at our own Sparky. If you saw his live stream last week, you'll know what he's talking about.
Good shirt. What's a good shirt?
The ones that I'm wearing now.
Anything done
was a good shirt.
I just realised we've got about 20 minutes of the show left. Is there any other questions anyone wants to ask, or should I let everyone know in regards to a couple of updates that I have here next to me?
Well, we can do the updates and then get back to chat.
I'll just quickly double check chat. Everyone's gone quiet. All right. So, as everyone knows, if you look in the chat, I've got Nightbot running in the background, letting you know about the traveling boxcar. I am happy to say they're getting posted Monday.
Nice.
So the traveling boxcar is starting Monday. So there's the N scale one.
You did an N scale. Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the first one I did, Steve.
I thought it was HO, man. Holy crap.
Nah, the HO one is the one that got stuck in the mail thanks to our lovely postal service and COVID-19, or the showstopper. I nearly split it.
Hey,
That was
Shannon.
so close.
Shannon, don't get too big ahead. Steve's easily impressed.
Oh man. Well, hey, I'm Shannon, man.
Shots fired.
And there's the HO one. So they pretty much are finished. I just got to clear coat them tomorrow. I do have to modify them slightly. But in saying that, the HO one, metal wheels, knuckle couplers, that's the Walthers. And this one that's a lifelike boxcar. Again, metal wheels, micro train couplers. So they'll be in the mail Monday. There is a couple of viewers here in Australia that have signed up for the traveling boxcar, so I'll send it to them first before sending them overseas. Once they do get overseas, the first stop will be at Steve's house, and Steve will, be the main operations to distribute them out to the rest of the states. And in saying that, I do have a map to track them to where they're going. Now, obviously, I'm not going to put everyone's address in there because obviously privacy and all that, but all I will do is put in the town of where it has traveled in order. It won't have a name as to who's in that town or whatever, but you can literally track it as to where it goes to and from. So that'll be very interesting. But yeah, so that's that. Apart from that, I heard supposedly we've heard the 50 people a while back, and I have to send the N scale bot or the N scale loco to I don't know who yet.
I forgot it's on it. Yeah, but yeah, we got to get that out too.
Yeah, so someone's got to send me the address for that. And apart from that, I've got a couple of ideas for another giveaway, but we'll discuss that once all this has been sorted with the first few things that.
Shannon, we still got something here that I ordered months ago, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, I do. But that's the thing. Like, I've got an idea on how we can do that one.
Okay.
But before we do announce that one, I want to get all these other things, out of the pipeline before we block up that pipeline too much.
Well, we could always give away your 484.
No.
Shannon,
that's
Chuck
coming.
wants to know if you have a link for the map.
Sorry?
Chuck wants to know if you have a link for the map.
For the map, it's in the link of the Traveling Boxcar YouTube video, which if you look in chat, you'll see the link pop up every now and then. So if you go in there, you go down into the description and the links to the maps are in there. So,
Hey, how come your name got changed, Shannon? What happened? Now it's showing up as Shannon. What happened to Sugar Cookie?
because I changed it.
Oh, okay.
So if you go onto YouTube, so onto this video,
That
if you scroll down,
it's just a bunch of
there's the map
lines.
for the HO. There's the map for the N scale. And when you click on it,
Lines.
when it loads,
There you go. Okay.
so that's the
Don't
first leg.
start.
That's the first leg for the HO boxcar. And the N scale one, I will have to update that, but I'll be updating that after the show.
That looks good, Shannon.
Yeah, that gives you a general idea what it'll eventually look like. Like you can see, I've already started plotting it.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, as I said, like it just has the towns or major cities where it's going to. Otherwise, I won't have any other details on those maps. So, no one's going to be traced or stalked or have strangers knocking on their door.
Well, we're still gonna have a yearbook kind of thing too, where we're gonna.
Yeah, we've got the yearbooks. They're in the other room at the moment. Quite simple. If you look at the video, you'll see what they look like. But yeah, as I said, like with those books, write a message in it. Your name, the dates you received it, and whatnot. And and part of the traveling boxcar is take videos, send photos to us, and hopefully at the end of the year we'll compilate all those photos and videos together and show where the boxcars have been. And let's see how far around the globe we can get these things.
Well, and get some comments in the book too, because we want to read them. We're going to read them aloud because we want to know what you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah,
Even just a funny clip.
yeah. If you want to make us laugh, Tell us a joke.
Yeah.
If you want to put an inspirational quote, do that. Put an inspirational quote for all of us to be inspired about.
There you go.
Don't swear in it. Please don't swear.
Bill asked me a question.
We have a new theme song.
Bill was asking or telling me that Reynolds Materials makes some great resin and mold latex. Well, Bill, I would have looked at them, but I didn't know about them. So, and I've got all I need now. I think I don't know of anything else I'll be making molds of, and I've got a little bit of rubber left. So if there is something comes up, I should be able to cover that too. But that's everybody else that wants to maybe get into something like this might check them out. But you can see I also mixed up some plaster and poured in some of the molds here. And you can see how I do it. I just fill up whatever I'm going to do. I didn't really calculate too much on the plaster this time. I just made up a bunch and came over here to pour it in so I could show you what's going on. But this is the one that we made this morning. So I'll have another one of these here as soon as this hardens. It's really easy to do. And now I can make as many of these walls as I need.
Now, Brian, how many you gonna have to make, Brian? Do you remember?
What are you molding, Brian?
I know it's a lot. You got a lot of tunnel portals you got to make.
I can see he's muted at the moment, so he might have to unmute himself first.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
There
58.
you go.
58.
I have
Did I hear
29
50?
tunnels.
58. Oh wow.
I have 29 tunnels.
And they all have to be different, I'll bet.
And they're actually all really there on the line.
Are they all the same?
I doubt it very seriously. Most of them probably don't even actually have portals prototypically.
It may just be rock cuts. Yeah.
They are, some of them. So I've got to do some research on that, to be honest. That's a great question. Because
Hopefully there's a video of someone who's recorded the whole line and you just watch it, just go rock, rock, portal, rock.
Tree.
Well, hey Brian, if you've
Oh,
got
God.
a cut or a concrete portal or something like that you want replicated, send it to me and I'll make a mold for it. I got enough rubber here probably to make one.
Okay.
And then I can send you the mold back and you can pour as many as you want.
That would be cool.
Wow.
That would be cool.
'Cause I don't know what else I'm going to make mold of. So I think this
Yeah,
is
well,
the last
here's
thing.
what we're going to do, Claude. We're going to do that. I need you to go ahead and do that with an N-scale fast tracks turnout jig. Go ahead and pick it all up.
I don't think it'd hold up too well in plaster, Brian.
Let's do
Don't
number
get it from
5.
Fast Tracks.
Yeah, perfect.
I've got
Number
mine
5.
ordered from Blue Ridge Tracks. It's half the price.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same quality product?
Yeah, it's not made out of aluminum. It's a composite. But I've done the research and talked with Claude pretty extensively about it. And it's ordered. I've talked with the guy. The guy is awesome. He's retired and he got a CNC machine and figured he could make them cheaper. And so I bought a dual crossover jig. So I can make number 5 turnouts. I can make a crossing or a dual crossover, single crossover. And now I got to do is order the filing tool from Fast Tracks, which I'll do. And I'm making turnouts. So stay tuned.
What is your how many jigs did you order, Steve?
Just one.
One jig will make all those
Well,
different
it'll make a dual crossover, a double crossover, with four turnouts. But you can make a single turnout. You can make the crossing.
I see what you're saying.
You can make a single crossover. So that it's the same price basically as the turnout jig. And so, and it's he said it'll last because I've got 30. I counted yesterday. I got 38 turnouts here that are eventually going to have to be replaced. Plus whatever I do for an expansion up in the yard. I've got a few turnouts that my idea of doing the little snap deals with Atlas turnouts isn't going to work real well because I toasted 2 of them. They're gone. So I'm going to be putting down, I don't know if you guys can see it, but right here, there used to be a crossover. And trying to do the snaps destroyed these. So I'm going to put a double crossover right here and probably one over on the other side. So, but yeah, that's my next venture is, and I've watched the videos, the fast track videos of making the NN3, which are I think it's NN3. They're really tiny turnouts, and I can do that. So that's what I'm doing. So
Steve, Roy wants to know if they're all number 5 turnouts.
They are. Yeah, I thought they were number 6, and I talked with Fast Tracks, and I told him I had Atlas number 6. He said, "Well, print out a template because sometimes they're not." And I printed out a 6 and a 5, and they're all number 5. Well, most of them. I've got a few with a few exceptions that I can change, but yeah, they're all number 5. So he's going to make, and he offers a number 6 dual crossover in code 55 and code 40. But this is all code 80 rail, and so he's going to. Yeah, it's tiny. It's tiny, and so he's going to make it with to handle the code 70 and code 80 with number 5. So he's doing a custom build for the same price. So I wouldn't do fast tracks. I'd go with it's Blue Ridge. I think it's BlueRidgeTracks.com. I'll have to find a link and send it. But no, the guy's awesome. The guy is, very nice man, and
it's definitely worth
supposedly building it. Supposedly he's building it today, so we'll see.
That's very interesting.
Very interesting, and that's what I'm saying, Brian. I'm going to make a bunch of them and send the jig to you, and then you could try it.
I am very interested to wonder how that composite's going to work. If you said you and Claude have been over all the ifs, ands, and buts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I've not actually done anything but seen his page online, but I'm assuming if he's in business at all with this stuff, it's got to last a little while, or it's not going to. He's not going to make it.
I told him how many turnouts I'm building. He said, "Yeah," because I asked him what makes fast tracks better, than yours. What makes theirs, done out of aluminum worth twice the amount of money? And he said because they were the only ones that had it, so they can charge the money. And he figured he could do it cheaper. And
well,
he said it'll hold up.
I would imagine that there will be competitors that come in. I just remember, when Claude was soldering on his and stuff. Are you going to be able to do that on the composite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The amount of heat you use, Brian, on doing that is not much.
All right, but that's not the point. What if we accidentally use too much heat? Do we ruin the jig?
No.
I can't answer that. I mean, the guy says no, but
he says no.
I'm just troubleshooting.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to find out,
because I would use too much heat and ruin the jig if you could. That's why I'm asking.
But at half the price, you can buy another one.
Yeah. Well, and he told me, he said, there's a problem with it. He'll make another one. I mean, the guy stands behind his work. So, it's not like you're putting a ton of heat, when you're soldering those things. It's a little bit. So, I think they'll probably last. But,
well, and things have to be a little more dummy proof for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the extreme question.
Are you saying we need to give you a wake-up call every Saturday?
Well, not normally. I'm up about 4:30, but the problem was I was up much past my bedtime painting all this mess back here so I could get to work on the scenery. And I really wanted to get it done because I got to that point where I could have finished or I could have not. And I was either going to be up real late or I was going to have a long day today. So I went ahead and trudged through it and finished and just fell out. And I've not slept past 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning for a long time.
We were worried, Brian. It's like, where the hell is Brian?
Shannon, you're up early. You're up late, Shannon. When do we usually chat? About 4:30 a.m. U.S. time, right? I'm pop up.
Yeah, so about usually a couple of hours before the show and premieres.
Yeah. So, I just like I said, I stayed up real late. I apologize for oversleeping.
Well, Chuck wants to see what you've been painting.
Well, I don't know how well. If I turn the lights on, I don't know how you're gonna see. It's just flat blue, basically. I don't know if you.
We were afraid you
Help it out.
rode over your cable again.
All I
Give
said
you
is
a point.
All that back there, all the blue in the background and everything is just the base background for the backdrop, so I can put the mountains and ground cover and stuff in back there.
Wow.
And then I'll come in and do clouds and everything like that later. But we're getting ready to go around the corner once I get some more money. So I got to start working on ground cover and scenery over there.
We thought
Did you
maybe
get
you.
your point, Brian?
Huh?
What now?
Did
I
you
thought
get your
maybe
point?
you rode over your cable this morning when you disappeared.
What happened?
Ugh.
Brian, Roy suggests you get a heat-resistant soldering iron.
Oh, it's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah. You just got to have a really tiny tip on it because, man, I tell you, the N scale soldering is going to be a challenge, because
Nah,
I've
it's-
got the Weller, but man, it's not a small tip, so you're going to have a really.
Steve, N-scale soldering is not a challenge. Try soldering SMD LED components. That is a challenge.
Oh, speaking of that, you need to get my lights so I can.
Yes, I do. I'll get onto that this week, so I'll have it ready by next show.
That's okay.
Oh. Anyway,
Anyway,
from what I can see, it looks like it's the end of the show.
kind of looking like that.
Well, that went quick.
Yeah. We're starting to have
Yeah.
fun.
Well, we always have fun. Even if nobody else does, we have fun.
Well, that's the main thing. Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, it was a pleasure to see you this morning, Shannon.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, hopefully this time next week I'll be able to, host the show again, get everything set up again. I still got a little bit of cleaning to do here at home because it's hard rubbish for us. So we get to put as much rubbish out the front lawn and the council picks it up for us on Monday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
Well, we missed you, Shannon. Man, I swear we missed
yeah,
you.
well, I missed you guys too. It was a bit of a, I was a bit lost. Like, what day is it today? I'm meant to be doing something today. Oh, that's right. I usually stay up late tonight, but I'm not doing it at the moment because I'm busy doing all this.
Well, that's because now, Brian's got this, now his nickname is Sleepy. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, we got AllyChat, got Dr. Claude.
We got Steve Ross, Sleepy.
Oh,
Big Ross.
sounds like someone's just woke up.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I thought it was just Steve.
There you go. Good
And we
day,
got
good
to
day.
thank John again as well. John being such a massive help the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, in saying that, like, my baby boy started walking around everywhere, so I can't have any trains or anything like that on table edges or anywhere within reach of him anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, he's very hands-on. Mind you, I've got him addicted to trains. Like, as soon as I start running the train,
Andy
there's
likes
it,
trains,
and then he tries to grab it.
trouble.
Where is he?
That's exciting.
Chris.
How's your puppy doing, Brian?
She's big.
I guess so.
She's good. Come here, Gracie. Come here, baby.
Yeah, it won't be long. She'll be bigger than he is.
You're going to be sitting in her lap.
Puppy.
Oh, man.
Yeah, she's getting big.
Holy moly.
Oh, look at the puppy.
Oh, my God.
Look at the puppy. Yeah, she's
No
gonna be.
problem.
10 weeks.
10. Oh, mercy.
She's that big and 10 weeks old.
Oh, my God.
Nice knowing you, Brian.
Yeah. Your model railroad budget's going for dog food.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
She can eat.
Oh, I'm sure she can.
She's got to, and that's one of the problems that it is that, you know, she's a puppy, so she wants to eat. And you got to kind of feed her the right amount at this time so her weight stays proper. And so when she gets hungry, that's when she starts to misbehave. You know, after feed, you know,
Kind of like
She's
Little
fine.
Shop of Horrors, right?
she'll chew on wood. She eats pine cones. I'm not playing. She
Hey,
eats
mine eats
hard,
pine cones.
like pine sap around her face from eating pine cones.
Jesus.
Cones.
Yeah, it's kind of like Little Shop of Horrors. It's going to be Feed Me, Seymour.
Oh,
Yeah, she gets 3 cups of food a day at 10 weeks and stays hungry.
Oh, yeah, at that size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And stays hungry.
just give it 6 months. 6 months time, you'll be walking in with this massive bone about this big.
The
And you're like, oh, who's that for? And it's like, oh, it's for Gracie. And then Gracie just walks in and makes it look like this big.
Yep.
this one's filled with peanut butter biscuits and vegan treats.
Is that in a Kong?
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, another thing that's a good treat that's healthy for them is baby carrots. Get the,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
get the
have
little baby
those.
carrots about the size of your finger. And
Yeah, I got those.
they love them, and they're great for them. So,
Oh, Blue loves carrots.
yeah,
And-
mine
and
both
pine
like
cones.
them.
He likes pine cones.
I will do that.
But it's a healthy
Thank you,
healthy treat for them because a lot of the biscuits and stuff will put weight on them real quick.
Yeah, I've been careful, which she loves those too, obviously. But yeah, that's a great idea, Claude.
Yeah.
I've been asking for, I've Googled a couple times what I could give them that's healthy, and I haven't seen that, but that's a good idea.
Well, I've heard people give them green beans and cauliflower. They like both of those too. So,
Well,
Yeah,
I've heard putting dogs on a green bean diet if they're overweight.
Yeah, my mum makes a stew out of leftover foods for her dogs, and that usually has, you know, everything from mushrooms to carrots to lettuce, leftover meat, fat, spaghetti, sauce.
Just don't give them grapes. No grapes.
Or onion. Onion's poisonous.
Know
to
what,
them.
Steve?
Yeah.
Know what,
Yeah.
Steve?
No grapes, no onions. There's a few other things that are toxic to dogs, but don't give them, you know, raw salmon.
I wonder what about the tomatoes? Because I'm gonna have tomatoes. Is that bad for him? She probably won't like them, but
I don't know.
I don't know about
No,
tomatoes.
I don't think so. I mean, mum's dog has, you know, spaghetti sauce with spaghetti.
Oh, yeah, mine loves spaghetti. That's not real good for them. So,
I will have to. I'm gonna send y'all a picture of the tomato garden later today. It is booming.
Oh, yeah, you're going to show us the before picture and then in about 2 weeks, the after picture when Grace has gone through it.
Oh, Claude, what you got? Ah,
yeah, it's.
very nice.
I think we can pop the one we did today. I can take it out now. This plaster's really funny. It'll stay soft for most of the time, and then all of a sudden it gets hard. It's like it happens all at once.
Brian, Gary
Sweet.
at Big G's suggested
Nice.
hot sauce for the wood chewing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that can help.
Unless, of
you
course,
got
she
some
likes
good
it.
hot sauce. Yeah, Gary, you got some good
Hot sauce for the what? For the
For the
wood,
wood
chewing?
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of Gary, you've got some trees coming from the Back on Track team.
I can't believe you said them.
I did. I mailed it. He should get them today.
He made him take the turnout too, though.
He has to have.
Stuff,
I guess I could use hot sauce, John, but what I have done in the past is I used to grow peppers all the time, and I'd squeeze the peppers in my hand, the hot peppers, in a Ziploc bag, turned inside out, and then I'd grab my cords, whatever electrical cords,
Right.
and run my hand down them. And then when the puppy licks the cord, that capsaicin hits them, and they'll leave those cords alone.
Sure.
Nice.
My mum and dad's dog actually likes spicy food. My brother loves spicy food. He gives her a bit, and she just, well, yeah, more please.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into spicy food and dogs because my mate did that once and it wasn't pretty. Let's just leave it at that. Let's say he woke up in the middle of the night to a massive surprise all over the room.
Yeah. Well, Blue doesn't do that with, if he eats cat food, it's not that. It's what goes in the air after he eats cat food. That dog will run you out. Don't give a pit bull dog food or cat food.
Claude,
I'll be
Roy's
kidding.
going to send you a turbine blade to mold and cast. He said he needs
Tur-
about 30 of them.
Turbine blade. Yeah.
He wants to know what you'd charge.
I'll charge him anything if I can do it. But I'd have to see it before I could tell him I could do it or not.
He needs about 30 of them.
Well,
Oh.
yeah, the plaster's not expensive. That's, and it depends on how big they are. But if I'm assuming they're HO or N scale, who was it? Roy? You say?
Roy.
Mhm.
So it could be either eight.
so
How big are they, Roy?
Yeah, it just depends
What was in
on if they're moldable or not. If it's if it's just like a relief kind of thing, then yeah, you can probably do it pretty easy. But I would think they would be better in a resin or a plastic or something than plaster.
Yeah,
But
I would
could do
think
them in
resin.
plaster.
I do remember talking
I
to
don't
someone
like resin stuff, so
they made some.
Why resin, John?
As opposed to plaster. Lighter.
Lighter.
Less likely to break.
yeah,
Okay.
resin would be stronger,
Okay.
especially for a small part.
Right.
We use a lot of resin for casting parts in SN 3.5 as well, like wagons, bits of locos, and things like that. A lot of them are cast in resin.
Now, with this piece that Roy H is talking about, 'cause
16
he's probably
inches.
talking about
Oh,
in,
16
would that
inch
be
HO.
too big to 3D print?
You could probably 3D print it, sure. It's
I was-
for HO, Claude, about 16 inches.
Yeah, I saw that. 16 scale inches, Steve.
Oh,
It might work. It might work in plaster. I'd have to see it. It wouldn't be hard to make a mold for it to be, a mold wouldn't be very big. So if he wanted to send me one, I can do it that way and see what it'd be.
Hey, Steve, I didn't know he was talking about scale inches either.
yeah. I'm thinking.
Well, when I first saw
that's a big. That's a
when I
big
first saw
mold.
the 16 inches, I'm going, whoa, that's a big mold.
Oh goodness, it's been a long morning. Go figure.
I feel like it's like 7 a.m. right now, but I've got to adult and I'm not
Brian's
ready.
still waking up.
Yeah.
Look, I haven't even had a whole cup of coffee. I'm like not even right at all.
Oh my goodness.
Meanwhile, Shannon and I are falling asleep.
I'm
Who
running
is?
trains.
I'm not falling asleep. I just know my dogs are going, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh man.
Yep, there you go. Oh man,
That's never a good sound.
that's never good.
All right, well, we're about 11:15. Shall we
Yeah.
call it a day?
Yes,
I
sir.
think so.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Roy clarified it's actually 16 inches long, maybe 14 inches.
That's about that big.
Now, is that
That's an HA scale wind turbine, I guarantee you, right?
Oh, he's wanting those kind of. Oh, yeah. You don't want to do them out of plaster for sure.
Nah, definitely resin or 3D printing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3D
No,
print.
3D print, there's a
I
guy
would
that's
think
been
3D
doing
print
them.
would be the best. The Roy, go to oh hell, what's the name of that? There's a website that you can go to that does 3D printing. All you got to do is send them the
Shapeways?
file. Shapeways. You might go there and see if they've got
I
one.
materialize.
If they've already got the file, I don't think they cost all that much to do.
I
Well, wait,
don't know what they
Simon-
charge.
I don't either.
I have a
Simon
3D
does
printer,
3D
but I
printing.
can't print anything that big.
Hey, Roy, I know Simon has a 3D printer because he makes drones.
That's 3D printed from iMaterialize in Belgium. All the bits for that cost 410 Australian dollars. Posted or landed.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's a pretty big loco. So that's sort of what you're looking at if you want to get it 3D printed, and that's probably some of the best quality 3D printing you can get. It's it's miles better than Shapeways, miles better.
Oh yeah, that looks really good.
Mm.
Well, it's saying that you can get 3D resin printers pretty cheap on eBay now for about, I think they're about $320 US, maybe a bit more. And the way you print with those is, if you need to, you can print large objects in sections that can kind of slot together like Lego.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it's been a bit of a long morning, so thanks everyone for joining us again. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Hey,
Um,
Roy, just a second. Roy wanted my email. Go to my website, Roy, and somewhere in there is my email address. Up the top there somewhere, wherever you click on to get the email address, it should be in there.
Yeah, it should be on the about page.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apart from that, again, if you guys are interested with the traveling boxcar, find the video in the Back on Track channel. It is on there. Or just look it up. Just look up Back on Track traveling boxcar. Should pop up in the first few videos in the search engine. And yeah, and I guess we'll see you all again next week.
Yeah, thanks for hanging
Have
out.
a good one.
All right, thanks
Thanks for
everybody.
coming. Take
Take
care.
care.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.
Later.
Y'all have a good day.
Bye.